Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Empowered Hormones podcast. I'm your host, Sheridan Decker, and today I have the privilege of speaking to Greg. So, Greg is the co founder of Switch Nutrition. His background is in sports nutrition, and he works very closely with nutritionists, naturopaths, and scientists. So, working on formulating and creating nutritional supplements. But beyond that, I've realized from my little chat with Greg before we start recording what a nerd in a good way he is on all the nutritional ins and outs of the ingredients, which I just love because it's actually hard to find someone who has the same passion for good quality ingredients, which I love. So thank you so much for being here today, Greg.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you so much for having me. And you're dead right. I'm a self-confessed supplement. Yeah, 100%.
It's interesting because, like you said, there's so much marketing, there's so many products, and there's so many things in the industry, and it's just hard to actually find good quality products because I think we're so saturated with media and Instagram and advertising and just all this crap. It can be so overwhelming as well. You're like, I don't know what to buy.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, and we'll probably get into this, Sheridan, but, with Switch Nutrition, we set out to help, not harm. We took that kind of Hippocratic oath that doctors take very seriously with the brand. We grew, like we've been going for 5 years now, we grew rapidly through word of mouth. Like our marketing budget was virtually zero. And it was all about helping people feel their best self, and then ultimately they will know what it's like to feel great and tell their friends and family. So, if we make good products, and somewhat selfishly, I made a lot of these products for me and my wife and my family. So, I wanted products that would work for us ultimately, and still have a cupboard full of the products and use them every single day. And I think that's a real testament to someone who's creating the brand is actually making them for them, their family and their friends to get the best out of life.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting because I was thinking about earlier today going, wow, like Switch has grown really fast because I remember working for VAST, so doing the lecturing in Cert 3 and 4 and the nutrition stuff. And like VAST was really small and Switch was really small. And in the last couple of years, you guys have, put out some amazing products, and you've also just grown like so quickly as well, I feel like.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a blur for me, like, 5 years, starting in the garage, and then, being in over 600 stores Australia-wide is, quite an achievement. And you sort of you blink and you miss it. But I think you just got to stay focused on what you believe and what, wanting to help people. And I tell my staff who are out there selling to stores, forget sales, just get results. Like, help people feel better and the sales will come. We're only here to help people with products because the nutritional diets and the environment that we live in are just not providing what we need as humans. So
Yeah. And at the core of it, like Switch started, obviously you're a co-founder of it. So Switch started because you're like, I'm going to say your interest in products, or your interest in nutrition, or what got that ball rolling?
So I started in the industry as a personal trainer and nutritionist for sports nutrition. So my background is a lot of high level rugby union and touch rugby, tennis as well. So I played a lot of sport. I got into the gym and loved it. I wanted to help people, train better, feel better. And then I realized, I've got this starting to build the knowledge on training. Let's learn about nutrition, because that's fundamentally a big part of, getting the best results, right? As an athlete and or as just an everyday human. So I started with nutrition, understood that better, still learning every day, but understood it better. And then went, you know what I'm missing here? I'm not really understanding supplements. So how do they fall in, and how do they work with this nutrition and this training aspect? So I started working in the supplement field, and that field is constantly evolving. There's new research and science coming out supporting different ingredients and doses, and so much cool stuff that we're learning about these ingredients that are found in food on a day-to-day basis, mushrooms and turmeric and all these cool things, right? So I just fell in love with it over 20 years ago, and ever since then I've been formulating products for major international brands, local Australian and New Zealand brands, and then 5 years ago I decided, what, we could do it better. Like, we could actually provide a product that doesn't add fillers, that doesn't lower the dose and fairy dust the product, and makes it work and get results. Because as you said, a lot of companies will put ingredients in there, but at levels that really don't move the needle because it's almost a bit of label garnishing. So that's not what we wanted. We wanted to actually have a product that made a difference.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And do you have, like, you said you're making it for your friends and family as well. Was there stuff with your health or family friends' health that you went, you know what, we need something that does X, Y, Z?
Absolutely. So Nicole, my partner, who I've been together with now for 25 years, she was on the birth control pill for probably 14 years. And with that comes a lot of side effects, including feeding the inflammation and leading to an increase in TBG, which is thyroid binding globulin, resulting in poor thyroid function and inflammation, which led to Nicole being diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So she was tired and fatigued and puffy and gaining weight and hair falling out. 1/3 of her outer eyebrow was disappearing. Just all the classical symptoms of Hashimoto's or thyroid dysfunction. And went through the standard sort of treatment protocol. Obviously got diagnosed and then put on thyroxine, which is T4, which worked for a little bit, then stopped working because, as you know, that backs up the reverse T3 pathways and blocks the thyroid hormones even really working. So then the doctors maneuvered a little bit and put her on a combination of T3 and T4, so cytomel and thyroxine, and that worked for a little bit. And then she started getting heart palpitations, anxiety, depression, mood changes. So it was just an absolute nightmare to sort of deal with for her more than anything, and it was horrible for me to watch it. So, we just learned more and more about the connection between the gut health and, leaky gut syndrome, SIBO, just really improving the overall health of the microbiome, and then also bringing the inflammation down and dealing with stress, because stress is probably the leading cause of all disease. And I call it dis-ease, not disease, but it leads to that, right? So the body's in a state of dis-ease as a result of inflammation and stress that are sort of, fueling this fire. So we needed to find a way to get her stress down. And sometimes that's easier said than done. You can remove some of the stressful things easier than others. So it's also managing the stress and how the body goes about coping with that stress, which led us to develop a product that contains ashwagandha, magnesium, zinc, vitamin C, L-theanine, that could also be used post-workout for recovery, but also in an everyday sort of environment to lower stress and take the body out of what's called the sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight, kind of always feeling on edge, always feeling agitated and anxious and stressed out, into a parasympathetic nervous system state, which is that calm, relax, rest, digest, recover, repair, restore kind of state, which is what we need at night, right? So her sleep was disrupted. She wasn't sleeping well. She was getting a lot of sleep latency, waking up throughout the night, having bad dreams and nightmares, and then just feeling unrested. By the time she woke up, she was just fatigued and tired, where she should be waking up revitalized and alive. So we went about creating products that would obviously help to support the adrenals and bring the levels of stress down. A product that would help to bring back her vitality and support her gut health, and bring the inflammation down, and then got her away from the birth control pill. And I think between those sort of strategies, she improved her diet. She did go on what I call an AIP, or autoimmune protocol, because obviously Hashimoto's thyroiditis is an autoimmune issue. It's a shift from Th1 to Th2 dominant in terms of immunity. So it's really a case of just bringing the body's immune system back into regulation. And sometimes you've got to remove some of those inflammatory foods and inflammatory environmental issues too.
Yeah, and I think like the big thing there is that all those things she was experiencing and having is what I see in women every single day, right? Like they're not uncommon symptoms, like all those things, the thyroid kind of issues, the immune stuff, it would have led to that hormonal imbalance. She'd been on the birth control pill, that's depleting nutrients, that's changing the microbiome. She probably had some gut issues alongside with the whole thyroid thing. Like it's such common stuff that you're seeing this firsthand in her with someone you live with and you love, and you're seeing this across the board and going, how can we change this picture?
Absolutely. And the amount of women that I speak to and ask a simple question, how do you sleep? And they just roll their eyes and go, I don't, and it's, or that's the ones that are being honest with me. A lot of them will say, oh yeah, I sleep fine. And then I asked a follow-up question. I said, how do you feel when you wake up? Do you feel alive, ready to take on the world and just so energized? No. Does anyone feel like that? Yeah, they do. They do when they get their gut health sorted. They do when they get their inflammation down. They do when they have a good night's sleep, when they get that deep delta and REM sleep. And to do that, you've got to get that cortisol down so the melatonin can do its job. So, it really was a huge focus for us to create products and develop products that not only help the sports person recover from a workout or a training session, but also help the everyday mum and dad or average person to reduce the impact that stress has on their body. And I don't mean just from a physical mood point of view. I mean also from a body composition issue, because it's known fact that when we have excessive amounts of cortisol chronically, we store more fat because cortisol also blocks thyroid function and increases TBG or thyroid binding globulin. So you've got this cascade of things going on that kind of continue to perpetuate and fuel a state of dis-ease or a state of inflammation. And I agree with you. Before we started this podcast, we were talking, and you were saying, I think that gut health and stress are the two leading causes of people's poor health, and I couldn't agree more. So the two biggest selling products in our range are the ones that address gut health and stress.
Yeah. So what kind of ingredients, because so many women would be like, oh, that is me, my cortisol is so high. And then we've obviously got all these lifestyle factors that are continually like playing on us. And we're like, okay, well, I say to them, we've got to step back and we've got to look at your exercise, look at your stress load, finances, family, all that stuff. So you're working on those external things, but then internally there's got to be I guess ingredients or herbs or things that we can do to start to calm that whole stress response down or help us adapt to stress better.
Exactly. And you nailed it with that last word, right? Adaptogens. So there's a class of botanicals, supplements that are considered adaptogens, which allow our body to adapt to stress better. So no matter what environment, and humans are very adaptive as a species. So, you put us in an environment and we'll find a way to adapt. It's an incredible kind of accomplishment of the human body. So we adapt to the stresses, but it's how quickly we can adapt and how much of an impact that stress has on our body. So you heard of the term hormesis, Sheridan?
Yeah.
Yep. So for your listeners who haven't heard of that term, hormesis is basically the exposure to a small amount of toxins that now enables your body to adapt in a positive way to support immunity or recovery or response. And in many ways, exercise is a form of hormesis, right? Because you're going to the gym and you push yourself a little bit, that creates some damage to the body, and the body recovers and builds stronger and more muscular and develops as a way to handle that stress, that physical stress. And that's almost a hormetic response. So adaptogens are botanicals that have a hormetic response. So they actually teach your body how to adapt to stress. And the great thing about adaptogens as a class of botanicals is that if you're underproducing energy or adrenaline or cortisol, it'll help to lift you up. And if you're chronically overproducing adrenaline or cortisol, it'll help to calm it down. So you're not forcing anything in any direction. Same with thyroid function, right? You don't want to increase thyroid function. You don't want to decrease it. You just want to balance it with what's right and optimal for your body. That's the beauty of adaptogens. They actually help to balance the bodies. And if you talk about it in traditional Chinese medicine state, like SHEZ, which is one of the most commonly used adaptogens, and TCM, which is traditional Chinese medicine, been used for centuries. They talk about it for qi, or qi as it's actually pronounced, but it's spelled QI. So qi is kind of the life force and the vitality of the body and supporting the liver, because the liver is where the energy is produced in the body. So, SHEZ is great for liver detoxification. We know that now. Science has caught up and understands that. But the traditional Chinese medicine system, without evidence saying that SHEZ supports liver function, has known for centuries that it supports energy through balancing the body.
Yeah, I get goosebumps when people talk about that kind of stuff, because I always just think about that whole, when I think of Chinese medicine and the herbs and the impact on the body, I just go, oh, everything kind of starts to calm down, and you just go, oh yeah, that's right. Like nutrition can play such a big role here when you have the right ingredients. I guess I think though, like with adaptogens, is there if say you've got the classic female who's, running after kids, trying to exercise, trying to do all the things, and you add some adaptogens in, is that then like it's enabling them to deal with stress, but is like long term, what if they still have all this constant stressor? Like, how does that play
Yeah,
out in
and
the
that's the
body?
thing, right? So, I mean, you touched on it earlier where you said you're trying to look at their lifestyles, like, is their work environment causing the stress, the home environment, the money, what are the issues? Ultimately, it's nice to try and remove as many of those stresses, those chronic stresses as possible. Acute stress to the body is not a bad thing. As I said, acute stress, like a workout, is actually a good thing. In fact, studies have shown that exercise outperforms the top 3 antidepressants on the market. So exercise is a great way to manage mental health and stress. It's physically stressful at the time, but it's so acute and sharp that it actually gets our body to respond in an adaptive way. Add to that adaptogens like, say, after exercise, you use something like ashwagandha. Ashwagandha can bring the body's stress levels, adrenal levels back down after a kind of excitatory state, which in this case is physical exercise, but something exciting that could happen that might not be helpful, might be a loved one passing away, or it might be the cat or dog dying at home, or something really tragic. And that can cause a lot of stress to someone in an acute environment. And it's not to say that the sadness isn't chronic, but to calm the effect and reduce the impact that it has on our physical health and mental health. Ashwagandha, which is an Ayurvedic herb used in the Ayurvedic medicine system for centuries, is a really good way of calming that nervous system. And it's been shown to improve quality of sleep. It's been shown to improve general health and well-being and immunity, and lower inflammation throughout the body too.
Yeah, okay. And my brain goes, okay, well, when we're in a stress state, we're burning through more Bs, more, zinc, more this, more that. So we're burning through these key nutrients, which is then putting us in more of a stress state because we're not getting what we need from things. We're also probably not digesting our food that well because our digestive system's in a bit of, sort of stress state as well. So you've got this whole compounding picture. So when we pull in adaptogens, but then we also pull in supportive nutrients and vitamins or good quality probiotics that are going to support that whole process, then we start to see that vitality and that healing in a sense. Like it's never just, oh, take this one product in isolation, you'll be fine. It's like, let's support the whole system.
Totally. So, like when I'm formulating products, I'm kind of looking at, what are we trying to treat physiologically? So what's the issue here? And, how do I help to calm the nervous system, but also support it in a way that provides the micronutrients necessary for it to do its own job and make sure it's capable of, adequately defending itself against these stresses and adapting to them. So, you wouldn't just go, hey, ashwagandha on its own. You would combine it with zinc and magnesium and vitamin C and B6 in the right forms too. A lot of companies don't pay attention to the forms. And I'll just give you a quick example of that. And we have a little joke around the office, which is it's our differences that make the difference, right? And it comes down to simple things like this. B6. So B6 is a cofactor in so many different biochemical reactions in the body, and especially the GABA pathway, GABA and the glutamate pathway of the body. So we have an amino acid in the body called glutamine. It's the most abundant amino acid that the human body has. And when you provide B6, it can convert into glutamate, which is an excitatory neurotransmitter that can increase alertness, but also stress and anxiety. Or it can convert glutamine into GABA, which is a calming neurotransmitter that calms the body's nervous system and makes you focused and a little bit more relaxed and able to adjust to that stress. So the right type of B6 will make a difference here. If you use pyridoxal hydrochloride, which is the cheap synthetic B6, you'll get glutamate, which is excitatory, which might be all right at the right time. But if you're trying to calm the nervous system and adapt, it's not the right pathway that we want. Whereas if you use pyridoxal 5-phosphate, which is the biologically active form of B6, that's the right form, it will convert glutamine into GABA, and we'll get a calming effect. So making sure that the formula has the right types, not just the right doses, but the right types of these ingredients is really important. We use magnesium chelate because it's a very highly bioavailable form of magnesium. We also use magnesium bisglycinate because it's very calming on the nervous system, and glycine's great as well, which we add extra glycine into the product to improve the nervous system as well. So it's kind of a combination. When we start formulating, I'm looking at all these different moving parts, amino acids, vitamins, minerals, and also obviously botanicals that can come together to provide the greatest efficacy for the person in that environment.
Yeah, I love that, because the amount of times I'll speak to a client and they'll be like, oh, but I'm taking, this product or whatever. And I'll be like, cool, send me a photo. And they send me a photo of the ingredients list. I'm like, I need to see the type of zinc or magnesium or whatever's in it. And I look at it and I go, yeah, but that's just, oxide, or that's whatever. That's not actually doing what it needs to be doing, in a sense. And people like, if you don't know, you don't know. And I get that. But, when you start to have that awareness and then you look at a product, maybe like Estro Switch or something that contains a good blend of ingredients, you go, oh, this is really cool, because they're working together and they're actually good quality products or ingredients.
Absolutely. And, just touching on magnesium and zinc, around 75% of the average population have an insufficiency in those two macro minerals straight away. And both combined, are involved in over 600 different biochemical reactions in the human body. So people say, what can go wrong if I'm a little bit deficient in zinc and magnesium? Like over 600 things can go wrong, So you'll never feel at your most optimized. You'll never feel the best you can. So making sure you get zinc and magnesium at the levels that are necessary for the human body, and especially when you're exercising, you're under stress, as you said, the physical and emotional stress that people are under deplete these vitamins and minerals, and then add to that the contraceptive pill and other medications that are also going to deplete these vitamins and minerals, and then add to that food isn't supplying the vitamins and minerals that it used to. And then add to that the people are doing the best they can. They're buying fruits and veggies because they've spoken to someone like you who said, look, hey, we need to get more fruits and veggies in because we need more antioxidants and we need more micronutrients. Well, two things are a problem there. Number one, most of the fruits and veggies that we're buying are really grown quite rapidly in poorly depleted soils with very little micronutrients left. And we know that they don't have the micronutrients to sustain their own health. That's why we spray them with pesticides to kill the bugs that they otherwise would have been able to kill if they were grown organically. So we've got this food that's covered in pesticides and chemical toxins that disrupts the gut microbiome, because the job of pesticides is to kill bugs. And what lives inside your gut microbiome is over 100 trillion bugs. So you're eating foods that are covered in a toxin that's going to actually kill off indiscriminately your gut microbiota that actually digests and absorbs nutrients from your food. So you're pushing yourself further and further back rather than trying to get further forward. And it sounds depressing when you talk about it, but just washing your fruits and veggies or buying spray-free or organic where possible. And I know it's almost a bit naive of me to think that everyone can afford that. I know it's more expensive, but you just do what you can to the best of your abilities, because what do they say, that the dose is in the poison, or the poison is in the dose, right? If you've got spray on your fruits and veggies from time to time, not a big deal. But if it's all the time, chronically, add to that contraceptive pill, add to that, other environmental factors, fluoride in your water, that's disrupting thyroid function and gut health and killing off gut bacteria. There's just so many, I guess, insults to the human body these days, and not enough nutrients supporting it because of the way food's grown so fast. And we've become a fast food nation. Like, we want quick, easy, convenient. And I've realized that. That's why I produced a product that contains 35 different plant-based botanicals, including, rosemary, oregano, coriander, spinach, kale, all these things that you should be putting on your plate every day and getting plenty of diversity in your food, but you're not, because it's time and it's effort and it's money.
Yeah, and one of the most common things you hear from people is like, oh, well, why do I need to take XYZ? Because can't I get that out of diet alone? And I'm like, well, A, you're not getting it out of your diet alone because you're time poor and you're nutrient stressed. But B, the quality of our food is not the same as it has been. Like, obviously, like you said, the spray and all those things and the soils and stuff. And then their absorption's always not as high, in the sense that they're not being able to break down those foods that well. And we're seeing gut issues and bloating and constipation, loose stool. So we're getting this whole like cascade of things that it's not as simple as just having, your 5 fruit and your 2 veg every day anymore. There's too much more going on.
And it's a perpetuating problem, right? Because, when there's the gut's off, you don't absorb the nutrients even when you're trying to, and then your lack of nutrients causes to worse gut health, and so it just continues to perpetuate, and that's why we're seeing so much of it. I asked you before we started, why do you think we're seeing such chronic illness and problems in our society now? And it's stress, and it's toxicity, and it's inflammation. So if we can get those things down and use supplements to help to support and build back up, I think it's a strong strategy, and it's affordable. But you could use a product like Vitality Switch, for example, which would cost you $2 a day. It's about a third of the cost of the same amount of fruits and veggies, and it would have the same level of antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, as 1/3 of your daily intake of vitamins from fruits and veggies. So, things like that can really make a difference. It can move the needle quite quickly. It's affordable, it's tasty, it's convenient. And I think convenience is a big thing that we underestimate. Like, we want people to do these certain things. And what I've realized over the last 25 years is sometimes you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. You're saying to people, hey, listen, I'd like you to make these lifestyle changes, these dietary changes, and it's overwhelming. I think people want to be able to just bring in a product and say, hey, this is going to fix everything. It may not, but it certainly will help if you get the right products. And I think with you treating your clients and working through all those other background factors, which are super important, stress, sleep, gut health, food, exercise, mental health, all of those pieces coming together. That's why people need to see practitioners like you, because then they can use the supplements, which will only really make a big difference if they get those other little things sorted as well. But they all have a cumulative effect. So you do all of those little pieces, you're going to have an overwhelmingly positive response.
Yeah, and for sure. And I mean, when I'm thinking about these things, I'm going, well, not to ignore men here, but my primary audience is women, right? So I'm going to nail in on them. But I even think we don't have this understanding and awareness of going, okay, maybe I've got endometriosis, maybe I've got PCOS, maybe, and then let's break that down into symptoms of going over these heavy, painful periods or breast tenderness or mood swings or those things. We're not quite understanding that connection between those symptoms and then these lack of nutrients, this high cortisol response, this stress, these, I guess, active sort of microbiome that's not working that well. We're kind of not connecting the dots. But when we start to go, hey, let's support it from the base level, let's calm that cortisol response, let's add those nutrients in, let's support these liver detoxing pathways, those kind of things, we see this reflection on symptoms as well. And I'm so passionate about bridging that gap with women and going, hey, your symptoms aren't just symptoms. They're a reason, they're a cause. There's a root cause for these things to be happening. And when we start to correct that with these quality ingredients and nutrients, we must see some amazing shifts, I guess.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the products that we produced that supports adrenal health and lowers stress and cortisol is almost somewhat magical, because it is seriously the root cause of a lot of these problems. And you get the stress down, all of a sudden the gut health, you touched on it before. You said, when you're stressed, you don't digest very well. That's because you're in a fight or flight, sympathetic nervous system response. And, I use an analogy, and it's probably pretty poor, but if you were running through a jungle being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, you're not about to stop in the middle of it and go, geez, I feel like a Big Mac right now. Your body just does not digest when it's under stress, because it redirects the energy and nutrients to the skeletal muscle, to the nervous system, away from the gut, because right now it wants to survive, and eating food is not high priority. So digesting it is obviously very low on that bar. And don't forget, our gut is a smooth muscle. It needs energy, it needs nutrients, it needs blood flow to do its job, but there's only a limited amount of blood in the body, and you're not producing a whole lot of blood every time you exercise. You're just redirecting it to the skeletal muscles, or you're redirecting it to the nervous system, or redirecting it elsewhere. So, you do need to be in a parasympathetic rest to digest. And to do that, we need to calm the body's nervous system. Otherwise, we won't absorb the nutrients that we're even attempting to eat. But the statistics are so damning. Earlier this year, the Bureau of Statistics of Australia came out 20 or 40,000. I can't recall how many people were surveyed, but only 96% of the population, let me get the stats right, 94%, of the population don't achieve the 4 to 5 serves of veggies a day. Wow. 94%. So only 6% of the population And this is a self-assessing survey. So when people are writing, what they eat and they're talking about healthy habits, they tend to overrate themselves. And if we're overrating ourselves and only 6% of us are eating 4 to 5 serves of veggies a day, which is the minimum required to sustain health, not even to thrive, but just barely survive, 4 to 5 serves of veggies is considered the minimum, and only 6% of people are getting that. We've got a real big problem on our hands. Like, it's not even the fact that the fruits and veggies are covered in pesticides and sprays. It's the fact that we're not even eating them yet. So, let's at least start to get people in the direction of adding more fruits and veggies into their life. If they can't do it in whole food, let's find a supplement that can provide, those micronutrients, those leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, and the things that we're missing.
But even in saying that, like, I look at myself and I'm really fussy with my diet because I've got a 10-year chronic health history, and I eat really well across the board and I really enjoy eating that way. But even then, I still add extra things in because I want to be at my peak. Like, I want to be functioning really well. B, I'm under a high stress load running a small business. C, I love to exercise. I exercise hard and I exercise a lot. So I know my body's under additional demand. So I think, like, even if you are in that 6%, I would still be like, add that extra stuff in because your body's never going to say no.
Well, the difference too is even the 6% of people that do eat 4 to 5 serves of veggies a day don't have a broad diversity. So they tend to stay in their lane. They might like capsicums and carrots and cauliflower and beetroot or something like that. They don't get out into the medicinal mushrooms. They don't get out into the corianders and the rosemaries and the oreganos and all these other things that have such medicinal benefits. So we've got a whole 100 trillion bugs that populate our gut microbiome. It's not just one kind. The microbiome is very diverse and they have very diverse functions. But to continually get that diversity in the gut microbiome, you've got to get diversity in your food choices too. So even for me, the reason I use a product like Vitality, which has all of these different ingredients, it's just to get diversity. And yes, for the reasons that you're doing it, to top up to an optimized level. And I'll be honest, like, I'm in, my background is nutrition. So, I have an understanding of food, but I also don't get the 4 to 5 serves every day. Like, there are days where life just gets in the way.
Well, and polyphenols are a big one for me. So when someone's gone through this sort of removal sort of phase, and we've removed some of these awful bacteria and bugs and things that are going in there, and then they go into this sort of let's sit in this rebuild and repair phase, which I was chatting about the other day, is just so boring sort of thing for people. And they're like, oh, okay, well, now what kind of thing? And I'm like, well, this is you for the next 6 to 12 to 18 to 24 months. Your gut's going to take time. You've removed the nasty bugs, but getting the polyphenols in, the colors in, the diversities in, the herbs, the spices, the this or that can be really overwhelming for someone when they're like, how do I just get a combination of stuff into my diet when I'm time poor? And like you said, having sort of a product where you can go, okay, cool, this is going to feed all those different bugs. And yeah, it'll take time, but same with having the good quality probiotics in that help to modulate and change that sort of bacterial environment is awesome and makes life so much easier. And it's something I supplement with every day is prebiotics, probiotics, and something to add in those polyphenols as well.
Yeah, and you can put that all in one product. So that's what we've attempted to do with Vitality Switch is so that we've got the pre, the pro, and the polyphenols coming from a diverse array of food-based antioxidants, like everything from turmeric and ginger through to quercetin, which I absolutely love and got a lot of fame, obviously, throughout the COVID period. But quercetin is just such a strong, brightly colored, like think turmeric, bright yellow, but it's water soluble. So it passes through the blood-brain barrier and it can reduce inflammation throughout the body systemically. It's antiviral, antifungal, antimicrobial. So, you've got a compound found in onions and garlic, but, that in this case, we get it from Sephora japonica, but, highly standardized quercetin that actually has a modulating effect on the gut microbiome in a positive way that will improve your energy, your reduce your inflammation, your focus, your alertness, reduce the potential of increasing adipose tissue, because quercetin is known to reduce juvenile fat cells maturing. So there's a whole host of things here. And, I guess your audience talks a lot to hormones and you're dealing with women. Estrogen comes in many different forms, but fat cells produce estrogen. So, when you accumulate body fat, you produce more estrogen, which produces more body fat, which produces more estrogen. So it's a constantly perpetuating problem. So that's where you need to use supplements that help to minimize or balance the hormones of the body, that progesterone and estrogen in a more healthy way that improves how you look, feel, and function.
Do you work with mushroom nuts or mushroom compounds a lot? Because like I love reishi. I don't really know or use a lot of the other ones, but often when I see high DHEA or something on the Dutch testing or the hormone testing, go, okay, that whole adrenal response, things to just calm things down and get those androgens down, or use a bit of reishi. But is that something you use commonly?
We used to, but then reishi was made novel in Australia, so meaning that it sounds cool when you say novel because it sounds like it's unique. But the novel food code means that it can't be used in a food. So unfortunately, reishi, is only able to be sold as a practitioner or a therapeutic or a complementary medicine. So the products that we produce, for the most part, are considered formulated supplementary sports foods. So they actually are food, which means that we can't use ingredients that are considered medicines. So that eliminates reishi, lion's mane, and chaga, which we used to have in Vitality, but we've replaced them with turkey tail, king trumpet, cordyceps militaris, and what else have we got in there? Yeah, that's it. So we do have the mushroom blend, shiitake and maitake, sorry. So shiitake, maitake, turkey tail, king trumpet, and cordyceps. So we've got a 5 mushroom blend in there that does that exact thing, supports the inflammation, helps to support the immunity and those sorts of things. We just can't use the rishis, unfortunately. And I like it. I still have a rishi product at home, and we were using it for a long time, so I've got lots of access to the raw material, and I'm still a fan. It's very calming, very good at night, reishi.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking like of these women who are struggling with, especially those who've done the Dutch testing and have done sort of in-depth hormone testing, going, okay, there is a lot of inflammation. My hormones are, a bit skewy if they're all jumping all over the place, and you're trying to find ingredients that actually work well on, I guess, those liver pathways and calming things down. And obviously at that first grade response, we're going, okay, well, there's a cortisol driven thing, which is driving up estrogen, and then, maybe changing that whole androgen picture, trying to find ingredients that work really well on that sometimes can be a little bit of a mission as well.
And I think that's where your broccolis come into. So, the body produces self-purifying from glucoraphanin. Broccoli sprouts have over 300 times more of these compounds than full head broccoli. So people go, broccoli is great for you because it helps and estrogen balance in the body. Sure does, but the sprouts are where it's at. So when we're formulating products, we use the broccoli sprouts, and then we'll get them standardized for things like glucoraphanin, so that it's a precursor to those pathways, or indole-3 carbinol, again to bring down that toxicity and help support phase 1, phase 2 detoxification. N-acetylcysteine, which you and I touched on prior to going live on this podcast, such a wonderful supplement, so liver supportive. And I think people need to realize, we've talked a lot about the gut health, we've talked a lot about the stress response, but the liver, in traditional Chinese medicine, as I said, it's called qi, life force, energy, vitality. So we have to support that liver, because that's where our body breaks down fatty acids. It produces estrogen from there, and other hormones. So it's really important that we support the liver for that energy and also for fat metabolism. And if we don't, then we're going to have a blockage in that area that is going to only result in a backlog of toxins, which is going to cause more stress and more estrogen dominance. So symptom picture is going to look like fatigue, tiredness, wired but can't settle down at night. You're also going to have this puffiness, that is water retention, because your body retains water under stress and inflammation. So there's a whole host of things that are going wrong, but you're spot on. You pinpoint it back to look after your liver, look after your gut, look after your stress, and you're 50 to 60% of the battle is won already. When you're using supplements that can help to support those pathways. And we've got 3 products in our range that will do that, looking after the liver, looking after the gut, and looking after the stress.
Yeah. I think you're smack on with that, because you're trying to, like we said originally, you're trying to address it across the board. So for women who are listening, who are going, oh, this sounds like me, like I'm stressed, I'm puffy, I'm tired, I'm fatigued, I've got all these things. It's like, okay, well, on a base level, yeah, go eat my fruit and veggies. Yes, make sure I'm moving every day. Yes, make sure I'm drinking filtered water, good quality
Yeah,
water
yeah,
with minerals in it. Those kind of things, and managing that sleep rest cycle and all that stuff, which I think is really great. And then also going, okay, well, how do I support estrogen? How do I support those liver pathways? And then going, cool, I can support, estrogen for that liver response. I can support, take something like adrenal switch for that stress response, and then something like your vitality for your gut health. And then you're hitting those three big things all at once, in a sense, and you feel so much better across the board because you're not just nailing down in one area. You've got this holistic response, in a sense.
oh, absolutely. And yeah, I think that's so important for people to take a holistic strategy. I feel like, there's not just one fix necessarily for things. And as simple as that would be, and how great that would be, you've got to kind of understand a lot of times, Sheridan, people that are having issues with their health have been on this planet for 30, 40, 50 years. And we've been living in an environment that's been stressful and toxic to us for that period of time. So it's an accumulative thing. And the other thing to take consideration of is what tends to get people motivated is how they look rather than how they feel sometimes, which is a little bit sad, but it's human nature, right? When we're constantly bombarded with beautiful people, and we feel like we don't live up to that, and we've got the self-doubt and self-hate rather than self-love. It's really hard to focus on the health issues when you really would just want to focus on looking better. But what I've really learned over the last 20 years is that when you focus on how you feel, how you look will fall into place. And there's such a sort of place for that. If you get that gut health and that stress and all those things managed, you don't stress about how you look. Honestly, it will fall into place because you'll have a metabolism that can support a healthy body composition by doing that, because you'll detoxify these toxins that have built up over 50 years. And consider that toxins are generally held in little balls of fat. So your body holds on to toxins to protect you as a protective mechanism. You don't want toxins to get into your brain or into your liver or your heart. So the body goes, all that mercury or lead or whatever I was exposed to when I was breathing in those fumes behind that bus the other day, it's gone and put those little toxins, if it hasn't eliminated them through detoxification. Obviously, there's 4 ways, right, that we can get rid of toxins: whether pee it out, poo it out, breathe it out, or sweat it out, right? So that's why exercise is so important. I never shut up, so I'm breathing out toxins all the time. So that's probably a good thing for me. But making sure that you're defecating at least once a day and having good bowel movements, urinating fairly regularly through the day, getting hydrated and helping to get those pathways mobile and move those toxins out. And if you can't, because your liver or there's a blockage elsewhere in the body, the gut, the liver, etc., your body will hold on to those toxins in little bubbles of fat. So you'll continue to accumulate fat because of the toxic exposure and the stress that you're under. So deal with the toxicity, inflammation, and stress, the gut health, the liver, and support the estrogen and hormonal balance. The rest will fall into place. The body composition will come, and it will come quickly. And that's what we find when I get people onto these 3 products. We find that people come back and start to say, wow, man, I look good, I feel good. And that happens rather rapidly because we're supporting those pathways that needed support for the last 20, 30, 50 years, and they're now getting it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that really sums up so much of what we chatted about today is, one, looking at that dietary stuff, that lifestyle stuff, but also the quality of ingredients and the quality of things you're putting into your body are a game changer, make a big difference as well. So I know there's a lot of women listening who are going to be like, yes, that sounds like me. I've been struggling with those things. And I really want you ladies to think about those 3 areas and think about, how am I supporting my liver? How am I supporting my adrenals? How am I supporting my gut health? Because they are the 3 areas that we really do dive into. And I will leave in the show notes for you guys some links to have a look at those products. But I do want you to think about it across the board and go, okay, how am I going to support that estrogen? And especially for you who have done testing, who know that estrogen's elevated, who have done hormonal testing, or who struggle with a lot of those symptoms because they are sort of generalized across the board. But if you feel tired, if you're tired, you're wired, if you have those, I guess that generalized digestive stress, think about, okay, how can I improve my vitality? What supplements can I add in, like the adrenal switch or like some estrogen support to really, bring you guys to the next level. So have a look at the link in the show notes, and you can also use the discount code SHEZ if you're jumping on the Switch Nutrition website. But Greg, you are a world of knowledge, so thank you.
Welcome. How do you spell that code? Like if I was to put that code in for discount, how would I spell it?
You know what's funny is that when I was like thinking of these codes, I was like, what am I going to use? And everyone's always just like, oh, we'll use your nickname. So SHEZ is SHEZ, which is actually, most people used to call me Sherry as an abbreviated version of my name, which I just don't, I feel like an old lady if people call me Sherry, and I feel like anything ending with, yeah, exactly. But SHEZ is kind of like the Australian version of Sheridan in a sense. We just shorten everything. So SHEZ, you guys can use that. You can pop that in on the Switch Nutrition website, but I'll also pop the links in the show notes for you guys. And if you have any questions on them, please feel free to reach out to me, or you can reach out to Switch Nutrition directly. You can find them obviously at their website, so switchnutrition.com.au, but also you guys are quite active on your Instagram as well, I believe.
Definitely. So switch_nutrition. So you'll find us there, or at switch_nutrition. We've got a Facebook page. We've now got a TikTok. So we're all over the socials. But yeah, look, if you need any help, message us, contact us any way you like. There is a chat on the website, or a contact us through the website too. So I really appreciate the time, and thank you so much for bringing awareness to such an important issue that you and I have both seen just sort of continually gets worse and worse if we don't tackle it now. People are just going to go through life thinking, oh, this is normal. I'm going to be tired and fatigued for the rest of my life. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm just so pleased that there are people like you, Sheridan, that are bringing this gut health message and stress, liver support to a wider audience. And I'm just I'm grateful to be a part of that. And hopefully we can help to support people's journey into a healthier, more vital life in the future.
Thank you. Yes, I agree.
Awesome. Well, take care.
Thank you.